professionals, and welcome to the boardroom hosted by BE Professional Consultancy. What do we do? Essentially, we provide qualitative solutions so you can achieve quantitative results. Thank you for joining us for our board meeting, and we promise you will not be bored. I am Dr. Erica Burks, and I am the Chief HR Officer of our illustrious business. With that being said, please understand that I am the most unconventional HR professional that you will ever meet, but you will love it here. My goal is to not only improve the perception of HR while also sharing my expertise surrounding business acumen and employee advocacy, while showcasing how HR is like the HVAC system of an organization.
Greetings, professionals. I'm Dr. Ellison, one part of B Professional Consultancy. I'm a veteran and expert in leadership and professional development. I have over 2 decades of experience, and I enjoy helping you improve performance from the janitor to the C suite. Dr. Burks and I have had some traumatic experiences because of workplace unprofessionalism, executive disengagement, and lack of accountability. We hope to harness those experiences so that you can get the results in your workplace. The question we'll discuss today, do you need a college degree? And ways to think about your purpose, is one that I can't wait to have with you. Dr. Burks?
This conversation is actually pretty interesting. Dr. Ellison and I had a conversation about a week ago and we actually have a post about it on our Instagram. But we really wanted to just evaluate or discuss if there's a necessity of having a degree. Um, and this conversation will be very organic. So I'm very excited to approach it and then just see how this conversation unfolds. But the topic, do you need a college degree to be successful? And I actually read an article in Forbes, and it was called Three Reasons Degree Free Jobs Are on the Rise and How to Land One. So the conversation that went on in the article was interesting because it expressed how we should stop looking at a degree alone as being more favorable over a skill. And it lists the reasons why we should do that. So, one, having a degree does not equate to workplace readiness. They are very expensive, which Dr. Ellison and I can attest to 100%. And college isn't automatically the right choice for everyone. So I'll put a pause there. Dr. Ellison, I'm very interested in your thoughts.
Well, you have hit the nail on the head. Let's talk about degrees real quick so that we don't assume who's in the room. We want to explain that there are a few different types of college degrees that you can earn. An associate's can take you about 2 years to earn, a bachelor's degree about 3 to 4 years. A graduate degree is usually what we think about when we think about a master's degree, and that can take you about 2 to 3 years depending on the program and your lifestyle at that time. Most people are working adults by that age. And a doctorate degree, which is considered a terminal degree or a professional degree, and that can take you anywhere from 3 to 8 years to attain, and that's considered a terminal degree or a professional degree. And both Dr. Burks and I have attained our doctorate degree, which is considered a professional degree, and I'm interested to hear what she'll have to say about it. But we've come to a consensus in our conversation before this that you may not need a degree, but I have some statistics myself that may help you rethink about learning. But in addition to degree programs, there are apprenticeships or job or skills training programs. There's the military service. I am a veteran, as I mentioned in my introduction. I can tell you about the military. If you're interested, just hit us up in the comments and we'll be more than happy to do a video about that. There are a plethora of military occupational career fields, and direct entry into the workforce are also viable pathways to career success. And before I turn it back over to my partner, I do want to highlight something for you. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, as of this past August, the top six fastest growing occupations, and I'm saying six because there's one that I didn't want to leave out. The top six fastest growing occupations are wind turbine service technicians, solar photovoltaic installers, nurse practitioners, data scientist, information analyst, and the sixth one, medical and health service managers. The pay in these careers range anywhere from $61,770 to approximately $120,360 per year. I encourage you, matter of fact, as soon as you finish watching Dr. Burks and I am imploring you to go to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Before we talk any further about whether or not you need a degree and what your purpose is, after you finish watching us, go to this site. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics can tell you about practically any career field across the United States, how fast it's growing, what the pay scale is like, how you can go about attaining this career field, and whether you do or you don't need a degree to get it. Now, wind turbine service technicians. What in the world is that? I live in a state where if you drive across country, you'll see those big white fans that bring energy to the state. That is what a wind turbine service technician is. And who would have thought that that is one of the fastest growing occupations in the United States right now? Dr. Burks?
Well, funny thing, when I used to see those, I called them big fans.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you, but it's so interesting because the economy has changed quite a bit. We know COVID has played a tremendous role in how the workforce has operated. But it is so interesting because when we have these conversations like we're having now about the necessity of a degree, one would think that only degrees or only jobs that require terminal degrees or graduate degrees or undergrad degrees are on the rise, where just in the information that you provided in the information that I've researched, that's not necessarily true. So, of course, we're not saying that no job requires or shouldn't require a degree. I mean, obviously, we have the medical field, so doctors, we have our nurses, we have our teachers, and I'm pretty confident you wouldn't want any medical professional operating on you or your children, and they just so happen to like the job and be interested and got it. Nor do you want anyone who just likes teaching as a hobby to be responsible for a good portion of the success of your child's future. However, what we are trying to express and understand is, should it be a standard for any successful position to require a formal education? Police officers, for example, they don't require degrees, but they do require formal training. So this is the interesting part because I feel like it causes you to reframe the thought of what a good job looks like, what a profitable job looks like, and an idea of what we should work to attain. So I will use my field as an example, if I might, Dr. Ellison. I don't want to derail the conversation a bit, but to make it more relatable. So for me, I initially wanted to go to school to be a nurse. I think we've discussed this before. And again, in my intro, I let you know that I work in HR, right? So being a nurse, yes, I had to go to school, which is how I knew that that wasn't the thing for me. However, to work in HR, I didn't technically need a degree. I could have gotten a professional certification and been equally successful. You know, it's subjective. But my field can be experience based, believe it or not. So, yes, having certifications, having a degree can help expedite growth. It can put you in a position where you can bargain and require more. But to be successful in my field, like Dr. Ellison mentioned, in the military, it doesn't necessarily require for you to go into debt to be an HR professional or practitioner. The funny thing is, I saw someone mention two things. The first thing was you have to go into debt to get a student loan to get a good job. And then you have to get a good job to pay off the debt that you acquired for this good job. And then the other part about that was, well, it makes sense to go into debt to get a good job that can pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you have to weigh the two, it seems like a worthy investment. So with that being said, Dr. Ellison, I am like eager to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, you made some really profound points there, Dr. Burks. But I would like to ask the viewers a question. Really, it's a rhetorical question. And I think one of the problems that we have is that, do you need a degree to get a job? And I think the question in that, and where I would like to lead us next is that I believe that people are going to college and they're getting an education with the wrong intent in mind. I think if you approach education with the mindset to get a job, in my opinion, Dr. Burks, you will find yourself sorely disappointed. I can say that a degree, and most employers will probably tell you the same, that a degree does not get you, nor does it guarantee you a job.
That part.
A college degree will only allow you to knock on the door most oftentimes. It is your integrity, it is your character, it is your value system, it is your mastery of your field, it is what you do outside of work in your volunteer time, outside of the educational arena, oftentimes that will hold the attention of someone that is conducting your job interview or someone that is entertaining you to for employment in the first place. What else do you do? Because in school, when you're looking down the curriculum for a degree program, they are only giving you foundational level education as far as a career field, which is why those apprenticeships are important, which is why having a network is important, which is why volunteering in your community is important, being involved in school activities and athletics is important. So if you are approaching college education or any education, whether it be getting a trade or going into the military, with the idea that this is going to guarantee me a good job, getting a PhD or a doctorate's degree is going to make me a shoe in for a job, I think you may find yourself so sorely disappointed. Dr. Burks?
I agree, to be honest with you. So I will use Dr. Ellison and I as an example. So we didn't need doctoral degrees to do what we do.
Right.
We were intrinsically passionate about what we do and filling in the void in professionalism and business practices that we observed. So we took the initiative to not just obtain a PhD where it focused more on philosophic approaches, I guess you can say. We focused on getting a professional degree that focused on practice. We were required to work with organizations that we had no prior knowledge or we weren't a part of like the intricate components of the organization or the business, but we had to assess a problem and then we had to highlight the theme that we saw and then also provide recommendations of how these things can be fixed, but we also had to incorporate a lot of literature to back up. We had to create diagrams. I mean, it was a lot. So it's not for the weak, it is not for the faint. It really requires a very driven passion to complete it, which is why we can stand before you and give you this advice because we're not talking out of ignorance. So that's one. On the contrary, I will say, so this was another aspect of Dr. Ellison and I's conversation. So this may be a non-conventional or unpopular opinion, I should say. So I have not here lately been a big fan of high school graduates immediately going to college when they haven't been prepared for college. Now, what does that mean? That means I don't feel like Dr. Ellison said, people are going to college with a purpose. They're going for experiences, which, Dr. Ellison can speak to that because that was something she, really honed in on. But they're going almost like it's ritualistic. Like, okay, we're seniors in high school. So what's next? College. Yes, we know as professionals that there are other avenues where you can be successful, but most often than not, you hear about college. But there's a big void in that. You don't hear about, okay, interning or volunteering or going on and shadowing or exposing yourself to something that if you can see yourself in it for a significant period of time, how do you know if you like it? I can go down a rabbit hole and I'll touch on this after I get Dr. Ellison's input. But I truly feel that we aren't helping, or maybe there's a void in really preparing these students for the real world. And that's not something that the teacher should do alone. It is a combined effort. It really does take a village holistically. But I feel like this is a part of why we're running into people going to college with the intent to make good money. This is where I feel people are going to college because of the aesthetics. It looks fun. This is what everybody is doing. But then you get this degree, and then what? What do you do with it? Did you just like it? I mentioned that I wanted to be a nurse. And that was just because I saw it. And I saw a lot of nurses around me. And I thought that that was interesting. But it wasn't until I exposed myself and I, got my hands dirty that I realized, okay, no. So I put all of this effort into having tunnel vision for this program that had I had a little bit more exposure or had I had some guidance or knew what questions to ask, that it would have helped propel me into, okay, this is just something I like, but that's not my purpose. This isn't something that I feel I can use to add value to the professional field. And so in turn, I didn't succeed in that. So Dr. Ellison, please tell me what you think.
I think you hit the nail on the head. When I graduated from high school, first of all, I had um, some unique high school circumstances, some life circumstances that um, made some decisions that kind of threw me off track. So when I graduated high school, I, like Dr. Burks, wanted to be a nurse, not because I really wanted to be a nurse, but because the elders around me told me that it was a stable career field, one where I would have medical and dental benefits, one where, guess what, everybody is, as long as you have a physical body, there's always going to be sick people. So they consider that to be a stable career field to go into. So when I graduated high school, I had a young toddler at my hip. So I decided to get my foot in the door. I would go to trade school. So I went to a school and I became a registered medical assistant. That allowed me to get my foot in the door, and I worked for all different types of doctors and surgeons. I worked around nurses, nurse practitioners. I worked in different states, and that allowed me to see if that was a career field that I did or I didn't want to be in. And due to some other unforeseen circumstances, I couldn't really afford college. And long story short, part of that is how I found myself in the military, which, like I said, I can expound on that later, but that just opened up a whole new world to me. But there are so many different ways for you to get your foot in the door. And the reason why Dr. Burks and I are able to demand not expect that a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree or a doctorate's degree comes with a certain salary. We can demand a certain level of pay because of our background and our experience. When we say from the janitor to the C suite, we have the apprenticeship, we have the experience, we have done things in high school that kind of set us up for here. So don't sell yourselves short just hanging on your hat onto some sort of college degree. Sometimes it may just take for you to get away from home and go experience something. We talked about in another recording, Dr. Burks and I, how we had jobs in high school. Sometimes you just have to put one foot in front of the other to kind of see what you do and don't like. Sometimes what the world is trying to shift you into doing may not be what your calling and purpose is in life. I do want to share some more research with you. Dr. Burks and I are sharing some of our personal experience, but we do want to let you know this is a well researched topic as to whether or not getting a degree is helpful for your purpose. According to the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities, so that's basically the university system, bachelor's degree holders are 40% more likely to have health insurance provided through their job, and their employers contribute 74% more to their health coverage. That is one benefit to getting a degree. Well researched. The life expectancy is also longer for those who attend college. Studies suggest that those who have attended at least some college can expect to live 7 years longer than their peers with no post secondary education. What a statistic, everybody! Why is that? Because those of you who have post secondary education can demand a certain type of salary that allows you to get certain type of opportunities at certain type of places where they have health and medical and dental benefits. Having those benefits prolongs your life, has a potential to prolong your life, right? Bachelor's degree holders are half as likely to be unemployed as their peers whose highest degree is a high school diploma, and they make $1.2 million in additional earnings over their lifetime. Now, let me highlight something for you. Is it the degree necessarily that are making these statistics possible? It's not necessarily the degree, it's what they're learning along the way that are making these things possible. So don't get the degree twisted with that what you're learning along the way. It is what you are learning along the way that is teaching you life skills that you need to know. So don't get the actual degree confused with lifelong learning.
Mhm.
Dr. Burks?
That is so true because there are a lot of people, I like to say, who have book knowledge but no street knowledge,
Say it.
a wisdom. Because you know what? It's easy, and I'm using easy very loosely. You ever heard how some people are just good test takers and
Mm-hmm.
some people just aren't good test takers? So, scholastically, they're very smart, but then you put them in front of a test and they get nervous and they bomb it. But when you go to school and you're presented with different syllabi and you're told this is what you need to do to attain this, particular grade, then you have bullet points that you have to hit. And that can be easy for some people. And then you do that, and then you graduate, then what? A lot of universities, believe it or not, do not offer any embellishment. They don't offer any transitional work. It's just like check clear. Sally Mae paid us our last check. Do you, want a refund? Okay, you're on this last class. You get an A. We'll confer this degree, and you keep it moving. Does that prepare you anymore for the real world? No. If you haven't utilized the off time that you had to acquire experiences that only life can teach you if you are basing your the bane of your existence or your ability to go out into the real world and be successful based off of the little box that you are in being a student, you will be in for a very, very rude awakening. So, speaking on a statistic, I read that by 2031, 66% of jobs will want a employee to minimally possess an undergrad degree. Not necessarily because the work requires the degree, but it saves them money on having to invest in training. So it's almost like, okay, well, if you come to me hot and ready like a Little Caesars pizza, then I save money on having to train and develop you because you've already spent the money and invested in your education. So all you're doing is coming to me with the degree. But the void in that, like in the article from Forbes that I mentioned earlier, is it doesn't equate to workplace readiness. And that's the problem. That's the problem. So, this topic we can discuss all day because it is so profound, and it's a conversation that you don't see a lot of people having, I'm sorry, and it should be happening. But the other component that Dr. Ellison briefly touched on is, but are you like walking in your purpose? So when we talk about purpose, we're not talking about like the purpose of why I'm here. We're talking about being intentional with making sure that what you are doing is adding value to your industry. We made a post about upskilling, and anyone who chooses to upskill, I feel like it is an intrinsic effort as well, because not only are you learning more, but you are, putting yourself in the position of becoming more of an expert in your industry. And so with doing that, the company benefits from it because now you have the capacity, or you may be more likely to have the capacity to take on more, to be responsible for more. But then for you, you now have added another credential or an experience to your resume, so you can go into an organization and show, hey, I am more well versed in this. So yeah, the salary range that you previously presented to me won't work anymore. You have the ability to negotiate. So I like to say, the more you acquire, the more you can require. But on another note, when Dr. Ellison and I, if you don't know, we obtained, I'm sorry, our doctorates from Liberty University. And one of the first books that we were required to purchase is called Every Good Endeavor by Timothy Keller. By far one of my absolute favorite books, hands down. Now, if you have paid attention or learned anything about our business, you know that we are grounded in our faith. And what I like about this book is because it talks about how we were made to work. God introduced the ideals of work from the beginning. And in working, we're not just, he wasn't just talking about getting up and going to get a job because that's easy. How many people, or have you ever heard the term about a dead end job? But you can go work, like we all can go work, but who wants to go to work unfulfilled? And so I like to use the example, if you take your child to the doctor and it's time to give your child shots, do you want the nurse that just went to school, did well, was good at test taking, like I mentioned, got a job and is here for the money? Or do you want the nurse that took pride in what she did and she's genuinely in love with serving? That's the nurse, that's who I want to give my child a shot. Just saying. But in the book, and Dr. Ellison, I'll pass it to you here shortly, in the book, he was really adamant about getting his readers to understand that we have purpose. It is not about applying for a job and then getting hired and working that job. It is about aligning yourself with why you are here and making sure that you are walking in that, so that you are carrying out your purpose. What value are you not just adding to your industry, but holistically to the world? Like, have you created something where people can look back and say, yes, Dr. Ellison added, she did that, or Dr. Burks did that, or so and so did that. Where people can look at you in hindsight and say, like, I can see, I know for a fact they did what they were supposed to do, if that makes sense. Dr. Ellison, does that make sense to you?
That
Am I on the
makes
right track?
that makes so much sense, and I'm so glad you hit on purpose and professionalism, because when I go to the doctor, I'm expecting someone that has mastery. When I go to the hotel, I want someone who is delivering the best in hospitality. Remember, a degree is for you. Learning is for you, for you, not to get a job. A degree only allows you to knock on the door to an opportunity. It's up to you to get it. Learning improves your health and your brain. Did you know that the brain is only fully developed at around age 30? I'm a lot older than 30. Some of you are not, but that says a lot about how little we listen to our elders. Your brain is only fully developed at around the age of 30. Intelligence begins to peak between ages 25 and 60. That says a lot about how much God intends for us to be lifelong learners. Listen to this: knowledge of facts, our crystallized intelligence that continues to increase until the age of 50. As we mature, distant areas of the brain begin linking up with each other, leading to larger and more widely distributed networks. That says a lot about God's design for us to continue to be lifelong learners. Getting an education also demands higher earning potential, networking, become the master of your craft. In my favorite book, there's a passage from Exodus chapter 35, verses 31 through 34. The Lord filled Bezalel with the Spirit of God, giving him great wisdom, ability, and expertise in all kinds of crafts. He is a master craftsman. He is skilled. He is a master at every craft. The Lord gave them the ability to teach their skills to others. Learning is for you. If it weren't important, why would people try so hard to keep you from doing what God saw fit for his people to do? Some were intellects through schools, and some learned through apprenticeships, just like we read from Exodus. Critical thinking and reasoning skills are good for us, and it also helps us improve communication. In his book, Your Purpose is Calling, Dr. Darius Daniels says that you were actively and intentionally crafted as one of a kind, and that the problems that irritate and agitate you are most often, more than likely, the problem that you are created to solve. So I hope that you take something away from what Dr. Burks and I said about a college degree. Can you succeed without one? You definitely can, Dr. Burks.
I actually wanted to just to show, help reframe your thought about certain jobs or people or professionals that you come in contact with who are all equally significant, but you don't necessarily associate a degree, if that makes sense, with that job. Oh, the top 5 jobs that do require degrees are medicine or dentistry. I said that, I mentioned that earlier. Engineering, architecture. So it's not just about liking to draw, but you have to formally study for that. There are skills, and some, some of these things you can naturally love to draw, but then there's mathematics, there's other things that go along with that, which you need a degree for. Education, that goes without saying, in computer science, believe it or not. Now, the top 5 jobs that do not require a degree are electricians, commercial pilots, executive assistants, flight attendants, and real estate agents. These positions can be obtained through secondary trades, experience. And you would look at these things and think a flight attendant or a pilot, and they don't require degrees, but they do require some sort of schooling. So I found that to be interesting when I looked it up because I said we think about these these jobs and sometimes we disassociate the significance of them because there's no degree needed, but it still requires a skill. It still requires some form of training. My husband, for example, he has his master's degree in criminal justice. He technically doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. He can operate within criminal justice at several different capacities without it, but it was something that he wanted for himself. He wanted to perfect his craft, which Dr. Ellison and I can attest to 100%. But we also know the difference between wanting something for us and wanting to enhance our qualification while also being able to simply operate with what God has given us. Because when you are walking in purpose, it is ordained.